like I said, I didn't wait. I just started publishing stuff. And honestly, it was the fact that I got half the rights to the Books of Blood, and the other half went to Eclipse. And they were just boggled. Like, how did this kid? Yeah, I'm working in a group house bedroom, you know, I didn't have an office, so they wound up taking me under their wing, and that was sort of, you know, I wound up, you know, getting a lot of work that way. But my very first paying gig in comics was for a company called Innovation, and they were just the first one that gave me like $100 for like an 8-page story or something. I was like thrilled. And hopefully I won't go back to haunting.
Basically, I threatened a lot of people. That was basically no, seriously, you want to know something? Here's a little secret. I was an art major. I tried to break in as an artist. That's actually an inker, you know, but my inking sucked. So, I was an intern for Bob Harris back when he was editor-in-chief of Marvel. He shows you how everything, you know. And, you know, it was great because I got to learn, you know, the process of everything. I got to learn what to do and what not to do. And, you know, like I said, I was actually on staff. I got a job on staff at Marvel. I worked for Marvel.com. And they needed people who knew the characters. And that's where the writing came in. And the writing flourished from there. It just went on from there. And I said, oh, well, you know, why don't I just pitch stories while I'm here? And I pitched, I was Wolverine. Mark Powers had asked me to take over the book, and that's it.
It's like a story from like the 70s, Mark. Just walking over.
Yeah.
That was a story. Yeah. Walking to the offices and pitching stuff. It's real old.
That's it. Yeah, that ain't no more.
Steve Bissett used to come into a comic shop that I used to shop at, and he'd read a couple of my short stories, and he was putting together Taboo, which is like this comic horror anthology. And he was like, you should take, there was a story called Tooth Decay. It was like a dental fear story. And he was like, oh, we'd love to do this in comic book form. And I really didn't even have a clue how to do this. So I worked really closely with the artist was Mike Hoffman. Remember Mike Hoffman? Yeah, he's great. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that was my first introduction into comics.
Now all three of you also, one of the unique things about this panel is that all three of you gentlemen write consistently in other media as well. Tom, you've written about 400 books. Steve, you know, has written screenplays and video games and novels, and Frank has written video games. What muscles do you flex writing in these mediums, and what continues to attract you all to writing comics?
What? Say that again?
So I guess the first question is, what muscles do you use that you don't use writing comics, writing in other media or other genre or other mediums? And what is still a draw? Because I know that financially, probably comics pays the least.
And it's the one I love the most. So yeah.
What continues to draw you to, obviously not the paycheck, but the love of?
I love it. It's my favorite medium, and it is that intimacy. I don't, you know, I like going off and writing my thing, you know, in a group. And the few screenplays I wrote, when I did the screenplay for 30 Days a Night, I had to go into a room once a week with 17 producers. 17 who all had their ideas, what they wanted me to do, and just addressing it. And honestly, it's not even worth the money. You know, it's so aggravating. And it's pretty impossible to address all those notes and get a good script, which probably explains a lot. You know, so honestly, I like the path of resistance. Comics offer, you know, the most freedom, and I'm most comfortable in it. You know, I mean, movies have their obvious, you know, movement for one is always nice. You know, not always having to find that moment is nice, but I love writing comics more. I still think it's just, we haven't even scratched the surface of what can be done with it.
I like writing, love writing comics, but, you know, one thing I think I would say in today's day and age, write comics, love comics, but don't limit yourself to comics, okay? Do other things. I write video games. I probably make most of my money from video games these days. I wrote animation, and one thing you recognize, they're all different. They're all different. There's video games. There's difference in the video games themselves. It depends on which video game you're writing.
Yeah, everyone's different. They don't,
Yeah.
There's no, like with comics, and movies, there's a norm. But with video games, it's
No, there's no
it's a Wild
template.
West.
Yeah, sometimes it's just dialogue, sometimes it's storyline, sometimes, and you're writing to your medium. You know, I think one of the most important things is to know the medium you're writing for. You know, a kid playing a video game, he doesn't want, you know, big, long dialogues. You know what I mean? He's pressing the button. Come on, let's play the game already. You know? Yeah, exactly. You have to recognize that. You have to write to that. When I also wrote for the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. That's different altogether, and that's like plays into what you said. You'd write a script, and you know, for the most part, when you write for a comic book, it's you, your editor, and then maybe there's an editor-in-chief or whatever who might have a comment, depending on what your storyline is and if it ties to a bigger event or whatever. But when you're dealing with animation, you get the script back and there's like 10,000 notes on it. And, you know, luckily I had a guy like Joe Kelly who was able to guide me and say, yeah, these notes okay, don't pay attention to these other notes. And you need something like that to navigate. So I think it depends on what medium you're writing for, really.
Yeah, I always, I've written about 35 books, novels, and that is such a completely different thing than comics. Comics is this is collaborative, really fun. You feel like you're hanging out with your friends, you know, especially when you make that connection with an artist, when you're not separated from the artist and not allowed to talk to the artist, you know.
And good editor too. I think a good editor makes it.
Definitely.
really good editor.
It's almost like you feel like you're not working a lot of the times with the comic stuff, because there's just a certain energy and fun to it, whereas the book stuff, I'm literally sitting at that desk at 5 in the morning and I don't get up again other than lunch and taking the Antichrist for a walk, you know, at 2 and then sitting down again and getting up at 5 to have supper or something like that. I mean, books is you kind of in your head for long periods of time, where comics, it's, you know, on the phone with the artist, you're sending stuff back and forth on, you know, on the internet. It's just a very, very pleasing energy to comics.
One of the other things too that I find a unique common thread with all three of you gentlemen is that, you know, obviously in comics you collaborate with artists and editors, but you've also all co-written, which I think is a unique experience. You know, when writing can be such a singular point of view, how do you all approach collaborating with another writer?
A lot of fighting.
There's always bound to be.
You know what? When I work with a collaborator, I really have to get the mindset that, you know, just get ready to kill your babies. You know, nothing's precious.
Yeah, leave the ego at the door.
And you know, and you wind up with something that's completely unique for both creators. You know, and that's really fun. Is sometimes it's my collaborations and stuff I can go back and read because I don't see me in it. You know, and that's what's really cool. You wind up kind of creating a third writer. You know, when it works. Yeah.
I've actually had people come up to me and say, "I know that you wrote this part of this book."
Yeah,
I get
and I look at it, I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't remember at all.
It goes back and forth so much that it winds up.
Don't even remember.
And that's not what it's about. That's what I mean. You got to throw that out because if you start doing that.
Right, then the book reads like this choppy. Yeah, it's like this choppy mess that.
Yeah.
I think you both got to understand that in the end, it's the product.
Yeah.
It's the work. It has to be. That has to be what's most important. Best idea wins.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing sometimes to do is to put your ego aside and be able to say, "Well, he's got the better idea. Let's go with that."
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the same point with a good editor.
Yeah, sure.
The best editors I have actually make me defend my story. Or make me defend what I'm going to do. And when I can come right back and go, I did that because of this, this, and this, then it stays. But when I come back and go, I did that because it looked good, and, you know, I have to go back and write.
Yeah.
So. And Tom, you have had a very long collaboration with Chris Golden. You guys have also written novels and comics and everything else. Do you have a certain methodology when you do, say, a novel, or even just in terms of comics? Do you guys talk about it? Do you work from do all of you work from outlines when you do collaboration, or do you just kind of shoot the shit with your collaborator and then just...
I'm horrible with outlines. Unless I have to write an outline, I won't do it.
Yeah, I know. If I could get away with it, I
Yeah, but how often can you get away with not doing an
I know.
outline?
A lot.
Really?
You know, when I worked with Joe, I don't think we used outlines. But when I'm writing with Jimmy Palmiotti, I'm doing Captain Brooklyn. which, yeah, that we used outlines for. And to basically, see, Jimmy is a very close friend of mine, so we're able to, I think that helps, because we're able to say, dude, that sucks, you know what I mean?
But so, for instance, in the process of something like Captain Brooklyn, because you also have Amanda Connor involved, who's
Yeah.
also, you know, part of this.
We basically let Amanda do whatever she wants.
And then so I mean, do you basically or I guess with all three of you, do you ever work Marvel style, or what's traditionally known as Marvel style, or does not really exist anymore?
I write plot and script, and I think that's pretty standard.
Marvel style, for those who don't know, is it used to be just an overall plot that the artist would then decipher into a 24-page comic, and the writer would come back and script it, make sense of it.
It was Jack Kirby most of the time too, so that helped.
Yeah, right.
If you could get them.
I still do full script.
Yeah.
I do, me too.
Yeah,
I
full
think
script, but
it's
I let
pretty
them
much-
go, but I say, you know, if you've got an idea,
Yeah.
Yes.
go with it, just
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah, right, just give, because,
Give me a heads up.
because there might be a reason I'm doing this particular thing.
Exactly.
So, for instance, with Captain Brooklyn, are you guys doing a full script, or do you kind of just let Amanda?
We do a full script, but, you know, we even,
So I would imagine you guys know each other well. There's a different kind of shorthand.
yeah, I guess you could say that. Like, you know, we have it where we have parts where we say, Amanda, go nuts. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
like, you know.
Yeah.
And she adds all sorts of little things in the background, like there's stuff with cats and stuff. She's like obsessed with cats. She's like a crazy cat person. And so there's, you know, Cat Brooklyn has cats, and it's got like 8,000 cats. She added all that. You know what I mean? When you have, you know, we're all friends, and it helps. You know, the way we basically write is one of us will write one issue, one of us, and then the other one will go in and say, this works, this doesn't work. You know. And put their stamp on it, and you know, we'll alternate doing that.
Did you rewrites of the other one's work, or do you just kind of?
I rewrote work, yeah. And that's the hardest part. I think with a collaborator is to, you know, just say, dude, I don't like this. I don't think this works. I'm gonna, you know, here, let's try this. You know, let me write, you know. And he's done it with me.
Yeah.
You know, and it has to be give and take. It has to be give and take.
Because ultimately, the finished product
Is what's
has
important.
both your names on it.
Yes, exactly.
When Chris and I would do comics, I would go over there early in the morning, and I would call it the pajama party. And I'd get there, and I'd just plop my ass down next to him, and literally we would write the comic right there, like doing the dialogue.
In pajamas.
In pajamas.
Okay.
And usually that night I stayed over to finish it off in the morning.
And then a pillow fight.
I like that one comment.
And then we talked about
thank you.
But the book, but writing a novel was completely different. We would break it down, you know, just rough outlines, and we would switch off on chapters. Like,
Now, how does it work? And I guess probably because Frank has done mostly corporate characters, although obviously Captain Brooklyn's creator owned. But both Steve and Tom have done collaborations where you guys have created the characters.
Yeah.
So
I did the Rob Zombie stuff I did. That was all. You know, we wrote hot potato style. I'd write 5 pages, toss it to him, I'd get back, it's, you know, 10.
Oh, really?
Keep going back and forth, and then once we had a whole thing, then we'd start tearing at each other's stuff. That's what it does. But, yeah, it varies. Every single person I've worked with, it's a little different.
Yeah.
We didn't have sleepovers.
Those Steve Miles in footy pajamas?
Sorry.
Damn it.
is there a character or an artist that's still on your wish list to work on or collaborate with?
No characters, but
I'd like a crack at the Batman.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always been kind of like a.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I know. It's like the character, you know. I'd like to play that.
And if you could pick any artist to work with on the Batman?
That'd be cool.
I came this close to doing a collaboration with Neil Adams last year.
Oh.
Now, I was really pushing, but now he's doing all the stuff. Yeah, he's writing, so that's probably a smart move for him. But yeah, that's just Neil Adams.
What I find in this industry, in this business, the most amazing thing is when you have the dream and it ends up happening.
Which has
Right.
happened, you know,
Yeah, working with
Wrightson.
Bernie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
well,
Yeah.
it's not like you're working with, obviously, not only an icon, but probably a childhood
Yeah.
figurehead of, like, just
Yeah.
influence.
When I finally got him drunk enough to sign all my books at my house, he picked them all up, and most of them were already signed. And because I brought them to him when I was a little kid. I already got them signed, and he was like, I don't remember yours, because I didn't say a damn word, you know. I was like, you know, I was just a fan. So now we've grown to be like best friends and working together.
Yeah, that's
It's a little
it's a little freaky.
It's a little, yeah.
I had that happen when I was writing Wolverine, and we had one of the issues we had Barry Windsor Smith do do a sequence, like a Weapon X sequence, and I'm like, I get the page, I'm like, holy crap, that Barry Windsor Smith is doing my Wolverine, Jesus. And how
But
is
it
that?
probably makes it more real that like the Wolverine, like this is like a real comic. Like,
No, but it's not more real. I was like waiting for somebody to come and take me away. Like, you know, like, this guy don't belong here. How did this happen, you know?
It's all a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. How'd this guy get in the door working with Barry Windsor Smith? What, are you kidding me? You know?
No slumber party with you guys?
What?
No slumber party?
No, Barry wasn't into the footy pajamas.
You guys are all missing out.
How about Steve? No artists that you want to collaborate with?
You know what? I don't get to work with a lot of like the modern guys. I do actually get to, you know, I get to work with a lot of guys I grew up with, like, you know, Wrightson, I do regularly with Kelly Jones, you know, but actually a lot of like, you know, I'd love to work with like Steve Evans, you know, guys like that. I never get a chance, you know, Gabriel Hardman. So I love his stuff, you know, I love guys like that.
Frank, any character?
Character Conan.
Nice.
I'd love to do Conan. You know, just have him just killing.
And Barry Windsor Smith again.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's make that happen. Barry, if you're out there, me, you, Conan, we make it happen. All right?
I think there's nothing in here.
There's nothing in there?
That's it. Pound's over. No water up here.
I think Mark Whedon once said that everyone breaks into comics a different way, and then as soon as someone finds that entrance, that entrance is locked up.
It sure is.
What advice would you give someone who wants to write comics?
Just write.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing. I meet way too many writers who don't write.
Yep.
You know, there's a big difference between having a great idea and getting that idea on paper. I have a million brilliant ideas that I can't get on paper at all. It's a big difference. So kind of a lot of people, sorry?
Carry a notebook.
Yeah, well, and you know, but that's the biggest thing. If you want to be a writer, write. And you know, you're going to be spending a lot of time by yourself. So write by yourself. Don't sit down, you know, because I have a lot of people coming up to me basically with like, I have ideas, you know, that I need somebody to write. I'm like, well, you're not a writer. You got to go, you got to do the work. You know, and that's the only way you're going to become a good writer too, is to do it over and over and over.
I would also advise people if they want to break in. Nowadays, it's different than it used to be, much different. And I would advise them to self-publish, really, because that is, listen, you're not breaking into Marvel or DC, okay? You know, everybody's got, you know, when they're starting out, they got these grand ideas, you know, that, you know, Marvel's going to come and let you do this with Batman, or that, Marvel, not Marvel, DC's, that's it, I'm flying from the whole couple. That's it, I'm on my comics, I'm done. Marvel or DC, you know, they're not going to let you work on Batman or Wolverine or whatever. You're going to, you know, chances are,
Says the man who wrote Wolverine for sure.
yes, but that's,
It can happen.
it can happen, but, you know, that was like a Hail Mary shot. You know,
But it was also not, that wasn't your plan. It just happened.
it did
It
just
fell into
happen.
play, right? So I mean, you can't plan to say I'm going to write Batman tomorrow because I want to write comics.
No.
I did what, you know, Frankenstein did. I just published myself.
Yeah.
I did that for almost 20 years. It wasn't until I was 33 when 30 Days a Night sold, and that was the first time I ever got an offer from Marvel or DC.
Huh.
You know, or they returned my calls.
Well, because you had something they wanted that they saw.
Yeah.
Essentially.
But basically, and that's kind of what you're saying, it's go out and prove yourself. Go out and prove you can be a writer, but you can make a comic and do that. It's going to make it a lot easier to get into these comics.
Yeah, and then you could have something you could, you know, you go to a convention and say, hey, look.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
show
yeah,
somebody.
you look at this,
You
you
can
know.
hand them something.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the other thing too is, what are your thoughts on digital? Do you think it's
Any way you can get
Yeah.
a story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Look,
that makes it even easier. I used to have to run around looking for printers. You know, when I didn't know anything about printing. And now, you know, you can sit in your room and
You
make
can
a comic book
you
and
can
put
read a
it
comic
out.
on this.
Yeah,
You
put
know,
it out in the world.
I
So.
don't see that as being a bad thing.
No.
You know,
It's still reading the comic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
It's still, the
that's-
medium is still there.
Yeah.
You know, we have to adapt to the times and,
Yeah.
you know, if it's on iPads and phones and whatever, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More people reading it.
Yeah.
Good.
I have no problem with that.
Me neither.
I'm gonna ask one more question, and then open it up to questions from the audience, which is, what do you all have coming up?
I'm working on, well, actually, I just announced I'm taking over for Army of Darkness for Dynamite for a year.
Oh, nice.
And that's what, I've never done a licensed book, and nobody ever lets me do ongoings. I usually do like 4 issues and I'm out, so.
So are you structuring it as a year-long storyline, or are you just kind of winging it?
And I outlined it, because I have to be approved. I had to do an outline, so I have to be approved.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm doing all the right things. So I'm doing that so that I can afford to get not paid for all my independent stuff. So I'm doing Chin Music and Image. I've got a series called Breath of Bones at Dark Horse that's going on right now. It's sort of World War II Golem story. Stuff from IDW still coming out.
I got a bunch of stuff I can't announce yet, but I can announce with
Conan with Barry.
Yeah, okay. Make it happen, dude. Make it
Conan in
happen.
space.
Conan in space, yeah. Why not? I'm doing that part of Marvel's big Infinity crossover, Infinity Heist, which is essentially Ocean's 11 with a group of Iron Man villains. And I'm also doing DC Villain Month. I'm doing the Penguin and Man-Bat. Yeah. That's a couple video games I can't announce yet, both of which are Marvel video games. Captain Brooklyn with Jimmy and
Who's
Amanda.
publishing that?
We're probably going to do Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, well, which brings me to, let me have what you have coming up, and then I want to ask about kids.
Okay. I'm working on the 7th book in the Remy Chandler series that I do for Penguin. I've got a kind of a super secret graphic novelty project with Frank Cho that I'm working on right now, that we're getting together.
Does it involve boobs?
I was going to say, is that porn? File less boobs than you would think.
Really?
Yeah. It was initially his idea too. That surprised the hell out of me.
I think there's going to be boobs in there.
Suddenly there will be.
Remember the zombie
dinosaur.
Dinosaur. It's got a French bulldog in it, so that's
Does a French bulldog have boobs?
Eventually.
Eventually.
And I got a couple other book projects that I'm working on. I may be doing some more Vampirella for Dynamite. So, still talking.
So I guess we're circling back to what Frank said was Kickstarter. What are your thoughts? I mean, there's been some controversy lately with people doing, like for instance, I know Jimmy's done a bunch of successful Kickstarters that, well, these guys are professionals. They're taking money out of us.
The Veronica Mars? Is that what's it?
Well, Veronica Mars is pretty, yeah.
I mean, that's a CBS property, isn't it?
Warner Brothers.
Yeah, so they were raising money so that the studio would give them
Basically
another
say-
million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know what, they have every right to do it, but I wouldn't give them money.
But in terms of comics,
It's great.
you think, good?
I've just done the 244 Flood ones, and it's been, it's worked out pretty good. We got the books made, got them out, got them to
Because
everybody.
there have been some I mean, there's one book in particular that's gotten a lot of controversy.
Well, there are people not sending out.
More business people.
They're not sending out their incentives that they promised.
Yeah, see, that's
They're-
not good.
They're
That's-
canceling the book. I mean, that's just the problem in any business.
Yeah.
You just gotta do what you say you're gonna do, and then, yeah, it'll work much better. Don't do what you say you're gonna do, it's not gonna work. Yeah.
So you recommend Kickstarter for?
I recommend my Kickstarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
Try to support my Kickstarter when it comes
I'm
out.
not exactly endorsing Kickstarter, but I think there's some good products.
Yeah, exactly. I think it depends on a case-to-case basis,
Right.
Some people are trustworthy, I think you can,
I kind of think that in some ways, by having a name behind it, is a little more cachet that you can trust these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a body of work behind
Right.
the project.
Right.
That-
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that,
Yeah.
yes.
We're gonna take some questions now. Sir in the front row?
Yeah, I have a question. It's hypothetical. Say that you have an artist and comes to your booth, like you were saying, and you found that their work is very intriguing, and you want to collaborate with them. What would the process be?
It depends on what booth are you going to. Are you going to a Marvel booth? Are you going to a DC booth?
No.
Are you just going, just
Just
on us?
sitting there at your table.
Yeah, I'm just sitting at my table. Well, if he's good enough, maybe we might do something,
I hire people
Like,
all the
would
time.
it be an honor system?
I hired a
that-
kid off Facebook last week. He's so good. I saw stuff, showed it to IDW, and now he's got a book with me.
So, for example, if they showed you some work and they submitted it to you, should it be copyrighted or is it not?
No.
Usually they're showing you samples.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Don't get crazy.
Unless they have a specific idea, that's their character, or there's the story that they're doing, but,
Okay.
yeah, most of the
Tony
time.
in space.
I like that too, that'd be awesome.
Most of the time it's just hard samples.
Exactly.
You get excited by them, and you come up with an idea for the guy, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Next. Yes, sir.
Hi. I have a question about the deadlines. How much time do you guys have to write a script? How do you plan your timing? Or is it was impossible to meet on certain deadlines.
They
How
generally
long
give
do
you
you
enough
have?
time. What is it, about 30 days? And then and then you write it the night before. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm playing Angry Birds all day. I'm on Facebook all day. Oh yeah, about that.
Yeah,
Probably right then, right?
Deadlines are great just for that last minute panic. I do way too much stuff with that last minute panic. But there's no set.
No, there's not. Yeah.
Usually on the phone, like how long you need, you say 2 weeks, and we still wait till the night before.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter.
It usually takes me to write a comic book script about a week. That's on average. I mean, sometimes less, sometimes more. I think it depends on what the project is and how intricate the storyline is and whatnot. You know, the hardest thing that I found to write in comics is these big company crossovers. Those, yeah.
You do team books too, don't you?
I've done team books.
Team books are a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just having to track everybody.
But
and
even
all
more so,
their voices.
even more so, yeah. But even more so with these company crossovers, there's so many moving pieces that you have to, this is going on in this book. Oh wait, you can't do this in your book.
You have to make both companies happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So. Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
You guys have each written for a different medium and so I'm wondering if you're in your office somewhere, whatever, you come up with a new idea, whether it's a character or a plot, what do you do? How do you decide this is going to be a good book, this is going to be a good comic, I want to pitch this as a game? What do you do?
go with your gut.
Yeah.
The thing with, 30 Days a Night, which everybody now says is this great, amazing concept, I pitched for 10 years to Blank Faces.
Yeah.
Vertigo turned it down, Dark Horse turned it down, all the companies now deny they turned it down. As far as deciding which one goes which, that's part of your creative gut. You just got to go with it and decide. I like doing most things as comics first, and sort of feel it out that way, and then maybe take it somewhere else after that.
Yeah, you'll know. It sits around in your head for a while, and you start to, if it's like extremely visual, I think a lot of times I'll lean towards maybe trying to find an artist, talk to an artist and working on it. If it's something that the characters just seem to come to life and there's just lots of background, and I'll say, maybe this is a novel, maybe this is something I should even expand even further, but you'll know. After a while, you get that gut feeling.
I think it depends on the story you want to tell,
Yeah.
too. I think one of the more harder things to do is also to try, especially in this day and age of trade paperbacks and so forth. Is it a mini series? Is it a one-off?
Ongoing.
Yeah, is it an ongoing? Yeah, exactly. And that's
There's really no method.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
really just have to go with your gut on that.
Yes, sir.
So for a beginning writer, how would you so when you go self-publish, how do you do that?
That's a class. That's a whole class. You want
Steve?
Well, first, just worry about writing. Really honestly, that's the thing I would do. One of the things I had a really hard time with was when I sat down to write a comic, I didn't know what a script looked like.
Yep.
I had no clue, so I had to call people. I only knew artists, so I was getting actually Chris Claremont scripts and the Senti script, like X-Men.
Right.
Those are the only scripts I could get my hands on just to see what the format was like and see sort of how they deliver the message. Now, you can people publish script books all the time. So I'd actually say go, actually check out some of those books to check out the formatting, and then tell your stories.
You can find some of them online, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of them online. Actually, my first script book was an Alan Moore script. It was like a.
Oh, really?
It was 22-page comic with yellow
It was like I
pages.
started crying.
I saw one of his two, I just never.
I actually have a copy of the Killing Joke script that's 150 pages, single spaced, all caps.
Yep. All caps,
All
too.
caps.
All caps.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant was like how does like Marvel or DC, like how do you like get to go with them?
Well, really what you gotta do is, you've gotta get some work together. If you're a writer, you need some, outlines, some actual script pages, some experience. And unfortunately, that's the thing. You really do need experience to go in there. And then any comic company that you want to work for on their website has submission guidelines, whether or not they're taking submissions, and every single one varies. Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, IDW, they're all looking for different stuff, so there's no one way. But if you go to the site, there should be submissions guidelines on there. So that's a good way. It's a good way to start. And then you're going to have to come more to these conventions, meet people, and in about 40 years you'll have a comic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, about what he was saying, when he started working for Marvel, he was learning the ropes, what he can do and what he cannot do. Can you explain a little bit about that? What you can do, what you
Basically, don't do a lot of things I've done. When you're an intern, I've always told people, one of the best, I know a lot of people who are interns who went on to they become editors or writers or artists or whatever. It's a great way to break into a company like Marvel because you're on the bottom and you get to see how the editors work with the artists, with the writers. You get to see the process. You get to see what they like and what they don't like. You get to, and it's not just, it's making connections. You're making friendships. You're networking. It's you're not just making Xerox copies. And if you are, then you're missing, the boat on. So it's absorb. While you're there, it's like anything, any internship to any company. Absorb everything, and I always say if you're coming out of college, you want to break into one of these companies, if you could get an internship, I highly recommend it.
Anyone else?
When you're writing a comic book, do you usually do like just the full script right away, or do you work with the artist to do 5 pages, have the artist get back to you, you guys work back and forth like that? What's the actual process, or does it vary?
It depends. If I'm creating something with the artist, then we do the first thing talk about. Generally, I'm doing a couple of those now where we just have the idea and we're sort of working it out, doing sketches, and then we're doing a sequence to see how it works. But generally, once this thing's established, most artists don't like working piecemeal. I've tried that. They're like, I got another 2 pages done, I got another 2 pages done. It gets very confusing, especially if I decide to change something.
Right.
So just do the whole 22-page script at once, send it in, and it's their problem.
and if it's a miniseries, do you do the whole miniseries at once, or?
I'm trying to do that more now. Actually, Mark Miller, I went and saw him recently in Scotland. He had me over for a film festival. He sat me down like he had discovered some new food. I gotta tell you about this anecdote. He's like, I wrote 1 issue, and then I wrote the second one. That's what we generally do. Do you do this? I write what I gotta get done for that issue, and then I gotta do another one.
Yeah.
And I wind up scrambling your brain.
Yeah.
He just said, you just keep going on the series, and you get this really nice momentum going. So I just did that with Breath of Bones, and he's right. It's really a lot tighter than a lot of
But you have to have the time, too.
Yeah,
You have
that's
to
the
write
problem.
into the next thing.
Move to Texas.
Do you sometimes work? Do you do your own thumbnails when you write, kind of just to visualize the page, or you kind of just?
I have done that before. The method I learned when I worked with Joe, and Jimmy, we use is basically we'll number a page from 1 to 22. Now it's 1 to 20, and you basically break it down in scenes, you know, on this page this is going to happen, on this page this is going to happen. They used to use index cards, but now I just, you know, in the beginning that's how I used it too. I used to do index cards and write on the index cards. Now I just on the computer 1 to 20, and you know, each page you just continue to break it down. I think the stronger, getting back to what you were talking about before, an outline, a strong outline helps. You know, when I do these miniseries, I'll do, you know, in this issue this happens, this issue this happens, this issue. I don't probably have the time to write it all in one shot, but in an ideal world, you know, if you could do that. But if you have a strong outline, and then maybe even go further and break the issue down into what you're going to do on each page, I think that helps. You know, but we're lazy, and if we can get away with not doing that, we do it, you know.
Sir?
All right. So when you're writing for an original character as opposed to writing for a character that's created, does your thought process in writing change?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I actually can give you a great example. Was I did a bunch of pitches for some DC supernatural characters that didn't wind up happening, and I wound up just one had kind of a seed of an idea I liked, and I just started playing with it one day, and now that's chin music.
Yeah.
That series I have out.
That happens
you know,
all the time.
All the time. It's really amazing, you know, because well, you know, it's a different sandbox. Is all
Yeah.
it is. When you're doing stuff at DC or Marvel, you have your toolbox, you have everything, and you've got a little leeway to go with originality, but for
there's restrictions.
You got to play with what's there. When it's yours, you can do anything you want, and you find that freedom, you know, really works out really good sometimes.
It's like when you were a kid and you go over your neighbor's house and you're playing with his toys. They're his toys, you know. And to a certain point, you can only play with his toys to a certain extent. You know, when you go home with your toys, you want to blow the head off of G.I. Joe, go ahead. You know, it's the perfect analogy. That's the difference.
We have time for one more question. Who's over there? Okay.
I noticed that writing styles change in comics over the years. A lot of the reprints of 60s and 70s things seem a little shallow. 80s and 90s seem to mix depth and the characterization. But lately there's been a trend the last 8 to 10 years where everything is dragged out. Writers either write as if it's more of a filler than it is a storyline. And everybody's forcing everything to be dark and gritty. Sometimes you can't even get the feel for the characters or the storyline. What is this trend? It seems both Marvel and DC is doing it. It's making me drop more comics lately than anything else. What is up with this new writing trend?
Try to emulate what's in the movies, honestly. You know.
Yeah, it's kind
that's a really broad question.
Yeah.
You know.
But I just noticed it's like the last 10 years, it's like this writing.
Going through now, it'll change. Just like, you know, there was a time when you couldn't buy a comic without a, you know, hologram cover. Thank God that trend passed. You know? So, wait it out. You know, it all comes back.
It all comes back, yeah. Trends are just that, they're trends.
Yeah.
They go up and down.
I want to thank the three gentlemen here today. Buy their comics.